Mikaela, I think we should break the ice.
Yes, we should, because I have to admit, I'm a little bit, anxious and excited. So I ask you, Joe, to stand up wherever you are. And we all are standing up. Joseph, and let's do a very short physical rehearsals all together. And I will count to 3. And please show as a body expression, as a statue, how you are feeling at the moment. So I count to 3, and after that, show as a body expression, as a statue, how you feel this moment, and be there for a second, and then I say release, and then you release the statue. Is that okay? All right, so how do you feel? 1, 2, 3. Release. Okay. Yes. Okay. The second one. What are your expectations for this webinar this moment? What are your expectations for this webinar this evening? Show that as a body expression for count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Release. Thank you.
By the way, I don't know if Joseph in London has also broken the ice. Tina here says that yes. Thanks for Joseph also.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, welcome everybody to Culture Countercurrent webinar. We start, after the great ice breaking, thanks Mikaela, of saying who we are. I'm facilitator of the webinar. I'm JP Väisänen and Merikukka.
Okay.
Please say who you are, and you are presenting an organization too.
Yes, I'm Merikukka Kiviharju, singer and songwriter, and I'm representing Fund Artists for Peace. Well, I have to write it down what FUND means. It's Performers and Artists for Nuclear Disarmament, which was founded in 1983. And since then, we have been trying to make the world a better place.
Wonderful.
Through arts and stuff.
I have short questions for everybody,
yes.
Surprise questions.
Good.
Merikukka, you are known as a peace activist. What is the best peace song ever?
Ever. The best peace song ever is Jäähyväiset aseille.
It's a Finnish song.
Yes, it's a Finnish song made by this punk group, which name I don't remember. But it is very famous. Kolla kestään, and I think it's really great, and which was also made famous by Liisa Tavi. And I remember that song when I was a kid. It was very effective.
Great. Joseph Healey, please present yourself and your organization.
Hello, yes, my name is Joseph Healey, and I'm from Left Unity, based in London. I originally come from Ireland, from Dublin, and I'm also a member of the cultural network of the European Left Party, together with Juha-Pekka, and have been involved in organizing the Cultural Assembly for the European Forum. I've been active as a singer and as a poet, and with various other cultural activities. And I took part in a very unusual LGBTQ musical last year, which ran over 2 years in a West End theatre, which was telling the lives of older LGBTQ people in London. So that's me.
Thanks, Joseph. My secret question to you is that because you are a rainbow specialist, so please tell us what is in the other end of the rainbow.
Oh, well,
A treasure?
If you're Irish, you say there is a leprechaun.
Yeah.
But if you're not, you say there's a pot of gold.
Perfect. Thanks, Joseph, to be with us. Then we continue here in Helsinki. We have Mikaela Mansikkala.
Yeah, nice to be here. Yes, I represent, and actually I ask as a support for my organization, which is Taiteen Sulattamo. I asked 2 members also to join me to this webinar. But Taiteen Sulattamo is a non-governmental organization which has been established in 2013. And what is really unique, that it has been established by mental health recoverers and professional artists together. So I would say that it's kind of like a statement that we have done it together. No artist had done something to someone, but it's like equality and together. And our base of our organization's board is also consists of mental health recoverers and artists. And so what we do, we organize different kind of art workshops. We do theater productions, which Helena will tell a little bit more about. And also we have 2 development projects, which is funded by our state. And actually I am working in one of those development project as a project leader. And what I do there, we develop a kind of a like educational program, and we educate, we have used this new word, art-based support. So we use applied art as a method to be a peer supporter. And my background is that I'm Master of Applied Art and also singer and songwriter. An artivist. Artivist. Action
wonderful.
and art all together, hand in hand.
Wonderful. Before I ask the secret question, let's also give floor to our other friends,
Yes.
Tim and Helena. Tim, please.
Yeah, my name is Tim, and I am mental health recoverer, and I am also art-based expert by experience.
Wow.
And I am also one of the founding members of that.
Welcome, Helena.
I'm Helena Ruti, and I'm a actor, not anymore actress, actor.
Exactly.
Without sexual gender in that meaning, and director and drama teacher. And I have worked in Taiteen Sulattamo, for example. I'm freelancer. I have worked from the year 2014, not from the beginning, but almost beginning. And I make theater productions in Taiteen Sulattamo. So, and all those productions are made by mental health recoverers, and there they make texts and material for the performances that I could call it like edit. I edit those. I don't like the word dramaturg. I edit every kind of material.
Great. Now to the secret question, Mikael.
Sweating already.
You are a professional artist, and I know that you collaborate with people who have other educational backgrounds than the arts.
Yes.
So could you please think a workplace, business or office that should hire an artist?
I have to say that I believe that every organization, every business, everywhere, artists are needed, because we can do the revolution, we can make a new ideas, we can put something new in the organizations, for example, in structures. So I cannot say any specific, but I believe.
Try,
Okay,
name one.
Okay. Well, actually, I feel that I am like this hybrid, right word, because my background is that I have also worked in as a kind of like a social worker and also an artist. So I can say that my last workplace was like that. So it was a place where this organization offers. There was a mental health issue, suffering from mental health issues. These people, it was kind of like a house for the mental health recoverers, and I was there. Like a social, like a guide, like a dial. I was like a social worker there, and I also used art methods in my altogether when I was like a social worker. So I can say that okay, kindergartens, hospitals, all these kind of place where you have mental health problems.
Okay. Housing, thanks.
Yes.
I think also the Finnish parliament should hire artists.
Yes.
Yes.
Very, very much needed. Okay. So welcome again to this webinar on art, culture, and well-being. Here we have artists and activists debating, and you are all members of different organizations. And all of your organizations have programs and plans for the future. And now I would like to open the first bigger discussion asking you that, do you think that your art is instrument for your organization's program? Are you an instrument of your organization?
Well, I am. I can say that what's being used because I think it's the best thing to. I go and sing, and then I open things for people to understand more to what is spoken of after that.
Exactly.
Because I think that's what art does. It just gives more for the people to get a feeling that okay. Now I'm interested what is going to happen next, and then they're ready to hear about these facts about what is happening in the world.
Joseph, are you an instrument for the European left or left unity?
Well, I think those are two separate questions. I think for the European left, yes, because I have been very involved with the cultural network and with trying to organize the cultural assembly, which is happening next week. And in that way, we have been debating a lot with European political activists. I like your word artivist, by the way. It's very good. I like that. And I've been debating with a lot of European political activists, but also European artists and people involved in art and so on. But I think as regards left unity, no, because I think, and this is one of the things we have been discussing on the cultural network, I think for many left parties, there has been an absence of attention to art. Art is seen as something very far down the list of priorities. So it was noticeable that very few, political gatherings. I mean, today, for example, Left Unity had its online conference, but there was nothing whatever in it about art. And one of my big complaints with the left has been for many years that, if we look at the time of Brecht, for example, and the use of cabaret and theater, it was a very powerful medium, but the left has forgotten this and has become very, we use a word in English, dour, which means lacking in humor, really, lacking in perspective, very boring, and has concentrated only on, for some left activists, reading out very long motions and proposals is almost for them a cultural experience, but for the rest of us, it certainly isn't. So I think, you know, there's a desperate need for the left parties to, as we say, wake up and smell the coffee, and to get more involved in the connection with art. And I think this is also the problem for many on the left. They don't know how to reach young people, and I think, you know, art is one of the main ways that we can stimulate people's imagination and ways of looking at the world in a different way.
Exactly, Joseph. Believe me, I've been now 10 years chairperson of the party here, and I hear all the time people say that politics shouldn't be performance only. so I get that kind of criticism.
That's wrong.
So maybe too much coffee here. Mikaela, what kind of instrument are you for Taiteen Sulattamo?
Well, I have to first speak from the organization level, because we are Taiteen Sulattamo, and Taiteen means art. So Taiteen Sulattamo is all about art. So, like for example, as an organization, we are doing making initiatives in order to influence structures and do cooperation between social and healthcare and culture sectors. So we are really trying to put these artistical point of view in the organizations, for example. But me as an artist, yes, I feel, because my profession in Taiteen Sulattamo is I'm a project leader, and it can also sometimes mean what I do really like boring stuff. I have to do reporting or evaluate and these kind of things. But I feel, even though I am an artist, when I do these kind of things, because I have to create what I report, I feel that is art too. So yes, I am an instrument in an organization, as in my particular job that I'm doing there. Do you have any other?
Yes, I am an instrument. Definitely, I am an instrument. Because in my work, for example, in Taiteen Sulattamo, but in other ways also, I want to be the channel of get those voices out. And my art, my profession is to make what's that? Kuuluviin.
To be heard.
To be heard. Those people which I am working with. So I am an instrument, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. It brings some extra value,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes, definitely.
I think we really have to mention now, I hopefully you, Tim, will explain, but Tim is a kind of like art-based expert of experience. 2 years ago, Tim wrote his life as a script, your experience as a script, and then it was performed in a professional theater here in Helsinki, and he played himself in that play. But maybe you can. I think that was a really courageous act, what you did.
It was great.
Wow. Fabio, okay, I'm happy to say that we have a live audience, and if anybody wishes to be part of the dialogue, we say, of course, yes. So Fabio, please.
Hi. First of all, thanks everyone for the webinar. My name is Fabio. I am a Brazilian living here in Finland, and I am not an artist myself, but I'd like to just make a mention about this thing of using is culture an instrument of your organization. And yeah, I agree a lot with what Joseph said, in the sense that in Brazilian politics, even in leftist discourse, it is common to see like people reject our most basic like popular culture. For instance, diminishing the role of football in Brazil, which is like one of the biggest cultural expressions from our people. And I just wanted to say that like our organization really tries to highlight both like the importance and like how we try to use culture and art, in the sense football in particular, to rescue the self-esteem of the Brazilian people, because yeah, most of the people there like we are oppressed by international politics and even inside our own country. So yeah, it is a very powerful tool, as Helene said, like to give voice to the people.
Great. Now we have opened also the debate to the audience, which is not audience. I hope that we are a ring of debate. Now, I tricked you to say everybody is an instrument, but how about, I mean, look at the cities. We have places for the arts, theaters, where they check the tickets, and we paint rooms white so we can present the visual arts. So we don't let all the dirt from the streets to join the arts, and now you are inviting all the dirt. And then, I mean, artivists and activists and using politics and mixing everything, like washing different colored clothes in the same machine with what kind of program? I mean, the question is, where is the autonomous of the arts? If you are letting the dirt come into the arts, don't you become an instrument of something else than the poor art? Are you
What are you talking about?
Maybe somebody is using you as a false instrument. Shouldn't you be just doing something for the white room? What does London say? Do you feel that somebody is using you?
Well, I think what you're talking about is the concept of elite culture and what we might call people's culture or street culture, and that difference is very, very sharp in London and in a lot of the UK. So, for example, because of property prices and property demand and so on, first of all, even to have a space of any kind for people who are not very well funded is very difficult. So you tend to find that the very established cultural spaces, which are quite expensive and so on, are the main ones. For anyone else to find a space now is very, very difficult. But there are people who there used to be a lot of squatting, for example, but then squatting became impossible and made illegal. So there were a lot of artistic squats. There were spaces. I mean, people use now more outdoor spaces, and there are more still quite radical collectives and so on, but they are, I would say, far less than they used to be. And of course, with the pandemic, that has made the situation a lot more difficult, because for people to organize things or to have an audience and so on, or to have any income at the moment is very, very difficult. And so a lot of artists, a lot of performers who are not part, even the people who are part of the elite culture, are finding themselves without any income. So it is interesting, for example, to see how different countries in Europe have dealt with that, because I remember you, Pekka, telling our network some time ago that Finland had actually released, I think, a lot of funding, but that has certainly not been the case in the UK, and you know, we have the classic 19th century image of the starving artist living in the garret, which has been the subject of many operas, La Traviata and so on. And so in a way things have reverted to this. So there's a very clear division, I think, between the two kinds of culture at the moment.
Always when artists are together, they start talking about money. I will allow you to speak about that too. But before we complain and say that we are not happy with the Finnish funding, I go deeper to this question. And are you a real artist if you do more than just the art? That's the question, because some people wonder. I know I have been fighting for this, so I know some people think that real artist thinks alone, poor ideas, and no dirty street ideas or poor people can introduce anything there. So what kind of artist are you if you are an instrument?
I think your question is something that depends on attitudes among us artists also. So I'm working in societies, communities. So I am a dirty artist. I have heard that word.
Not a correct artist.
Yeah. So it's how do you pronounce pre-tragedy?
Difficult English words.
Very, very difficult. So it's both sides, inside artists and outside these attitudes. There are some, and we must broke those attitudes
Exactly.
with our work. I have said.
And we have listened.
Yes, we agree.
Because I think it's very deep in there.
Yeah.
That there are these like poor artists who only do art for the historical connection to the other historical artworks. And in order to be that kind of poor, you don't start mixing your artist being with some kind of social questions or other things. And I think it's interesting if we are having a debate with activists and artists. So maybe this panel is not so easy because we all know that it brings a value too. It doesn't take anything away. Maybe it takes away something when you are playing grants. Or maybe, I don't know, what's your experience? If you have been applying for grants, has it been easy?
No, terrible. Well, I have never gotten any because they think I haven't done enough. And I think it's, maybe I'm a dirty artist.
And you have been singing for years.
Yes.
And composed.
Yes, but it's not enough, what do you call it, evidence.
About grants. Sorry. It's some kind of, you must make those anomukset applications for those words which are in those grant applications. Another person, another instant says what we are going to have to do. It's terrible that we can't say when we applicate those grants, we can say what we want to do. Somebody else has said it. And we must do these applications like, I have this paper, okay, those words.
And it's application language too.
Yeah.
It's like you can't write very artistic there.
Yeah.
Maybe some criticism to, now we are in Helsinki, and the city of Helsinki, yes, has granted 2 times special funding for cultural organizations and artists suffering from COVID-19. What is your experience? Have your organizations gotten any fund from this Helsinki COVID aid?
No, we tried, but actually we tried, I don't know, yes, we tried to get more extra money from Social and Healthcare Ministry of Finland, because that is the place or he funds our development projects, and we tried to apply more because of the COVID-19, but we didn't get any. And the problem with our development projects are, I'm sorry, I'm starting this complaint now, but it's so frustrating when it's only for 3 years. You have this big, interesting project going on, and you have just started it, and you are starting to see the results. And after 3 years, it's gone, and it's very difficult you have to always looking for new ways where to apply, and it's really frustrating.
I have heard criticism that it was the bigger companies in the cultural business sector that has been able to apply for these new grants. So individual artists and little companies had no possibility. That's what I've heard of criticism. I think if you are an individual artist and if you don't have many concerts during the Corona time, which is, I think, every day for almost everybody of us, so shouldn't these people need more aid and help? And now they are left away. And of
State
course,
fund.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
State has given
Some, yes. But when are we satisfied? I would say never.
No, never. Sorry, I said.
No, we are never satisfied. But I would like to ask Joseph, because you mentioned the spaces. Maybe some of us and some of the listeners and the audience has already read the interview we have done with Joseph. And there in the interview, you mentioned more about the spaces and the minority groups, LGBTI groups. And could you please open a bit about the spaces and the COVID situation? Because what you say in the interview is a radical message, a worrying message, is that the business is taking over of many important spaces that people have been able to have as a safe havens.
Yes, so there has already been a big question in London, as there have been in many big cities, about LGBTQ spaces disappearing. There have been studies done into why this is happening. And the mayor of London, for example, has a woman who used to be a cabaret artist in a gay bar. And she was very well known as a DJ and person running the show. And she was appointed what was called the Night Tsar, the Tsar for all of London's nighttime activities. And some of her job was to ensure that nighttime spaces, clubs and music places and so on were not closing. And part of the reason is because with the property boom in London, many people who bought expensive properties, they don't like noisy venues near where they live. So they tell the local authority that they're going to put complaints in. So for example, if there's a bar with live music, what happens in effect is that the bar has to close. They can't have any more music because the people living in the expensive flats will object. So this has killed off many live music venues and clubs and so on, and that's the whole nighttime economy in that way is shrinking. But also, especially for the LGBTQ spaces, because there are less of them anyway, with the property prices, many of the places became very attractive to property developers, and so there was huge pressure put on them to close. Now there have been campaigns mounted to save some of the venues, and some of that has been successful. But then with the COVID, it became even more extreme because many of these specialist venues need to be open and need to have a regular customers, and now they can't. And a classic example of this was in my area, which has in central London, part of central London, which has the second highest LGBTQ demographic in the whole of London. And there was a famous nightclub, and the nightclub was closed because there had to be development there. And the local authority, the local council, forced the property developers to say that they would make a space available in the new development, which would be for an LGBTQ venue. But we later found out that yes, the property developer would make a space available, but who was going to run this space and who was going to fund it? And the local council was not going to fund it. So, you know, sometimes these things, it seems like we are making progress, but in reality we're not, because how can the community raise such an amount of money to fund the venue? And I know that many of you are active in mental health, and I think a very big aspect of this, especially for the LGBTQ community, is isolation and mental illness during the pandemic, because we were closed. Now we are closed again, by the way, in London for another month. Everything is closed apart from the essential shops, and a lot of people are very isolated, and I think there will be, you know, big impact on mental health for our community in particular. So yeah, it is a very big issue now.
How about your spaces here in Taipei and Bond? Have you been able to maintain your spaces?
Well, Bond has, yes. Well, we had to take a what do you call it? Alivuokralainen.
Someone to share the
yes,
rent.
I want to share the rent.
Collaboration is
yes,
always
yes, yeah. But and it's also nice that then there's things happening, more things happening there.
Yeah, but I understood that in Bond, in the performers and artists for nuclear disarmament, artists for peace.
Yes, thank you.
I'm also a member, so we didn't get any state funding.
No, yes, it is the second year going on, and
yeah, why is that?
I don't know. I think it's terrible. Yeah. It's like, do we want war or something? Well, it feels like that. Yeah, now what the government is doing, wanting to buy these fucking war machines. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, bad girl.
Yeah, I'm really angry. Yes,
Bond
because
has a splendid history. It was Harry Belafonte in the 80s, came with the banana boat to Helsinki.
Yes, and there it was really big. But I don't know, maybe peace isn't so media sexy or something. It's which is quite awful that we want that violence and money is more than like peace.
Have you been too critical?
Critical for what?
For the current politics, because maybe they just cut your song, but you are not silent.
No. They can't silence us because we just keep on working. I think it's also with the art. I mean, it doesn't matter if we don't get any money. It doesn't matter. We just go on. That's what the money people are afraid of.
Exactly.
They're afraid. Yeah. They can never buy us. You know? Even though you give me $1 million, I won't shut up.
How about Taitesulattomu? Are you struggling with your
no, as I said,
spatial existence?
Actually, as I said, because, and we are of course grateful for the fund, because we have these development projects, that's why we have now a permanent place for our activities, but it depends. Like I said, it's like 3 years, after that what? But before these development projects, we didn't have any place. We were in the Nuorisotalo, different places in Helsinki area, and it was frustrating because we never knew where to have our art workshops or whatever. So now we are really grateful we have this place here in Malmi next to this place. We are happy, but you never know after next year what is going to happen. And it's sad because we need the place.
Yeah, but what would you say? What do we need? Like a more long-term funding or
long-term funding? Because I believe if you really want to have the change and really develop something stable, you need time. You cannot create something big within 3 years. It's impossible. Of course, we are doing it and we are doing our best, but still we need time.
Exactly, and some changes. Yes, really.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm very angry about this project society we have.
They're taking our space.
1 year or 3 years, and you must create something new.
Yes.
And after that, you again must create something new and new. So there is something we have done. It's good. It's good for our artists. It's good for example, mental health.
And the whole community.
Yeah.
We work really hard.
And again, something new.
It's very difficult. The city of Helsinki has like long-term project granting too, budgeting like 5 years is the longest one, but it's really difficult to get into a longer project. If we compare Helsinki with Stockholm or Berlin, we are far away in cultural funding from Stockholm or Berlin. So if I have given 2 beautiful vision in the European Left Cultural Network meetings, we are really not happy with our funding.
But you are perhaps one of the richer relatives in the family.
Well, the spaces and the communities are important, and important is also to understand why we do this art and why we keep on having cultural organizations, because we all know, if you ask any artists will say that yes, art is doing good for the health and art is doing good for the well-being. It's easy to find yes answers there. And I'm very happy because Taiteen Sulattamo is one of the organizations in Finland who is talking about this and showing also a very important document on the international level. And now we are talking about the report number 67 from the World Health Organization, which is giving us data and numbers and exact figures how the arts and culture is working for the health and well-being. Would you like to open some of these very important issues, because we all know it's there, but we always need someone else to say it too. Do you think, Mikaela, this report is good for us, activists fighting for a better future?
It's good for us, but I feel that still if you are not an artistical organization, still you have to improve all the time. That yes, artists affects, it's really a good tool to use, even though we have this this report which consists of 900 research publications. It's a huge amount of material. Still, I feel as an artist that I have to justify why is it important or very useful method to use in any case. That I feel weird. We have the data, but it's not kind of like in use. And also one question, what I think, why do we have to all the time justify something? Can art be like art as itself and it's enough? Why do you have to measure it?
Because it's not real work.
Yeah, it's not
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like a few months ago, in Finland there were, this person said that, hey, get a real job. I mean, artists should get a real job. Like, wait, okay, yeah, right. It's not real word.
What is real work?
Yeah,
So do you,
I think that COVID has shown that what is real work, what we need is art. We need art a lot more. We have to have the fundings to that.
so do you know about the,
Sorry.
do you know about the British government's campaign to make people work in cyber? So they had, they produced some posters, and they said they had a picture of, I don't know, somebody working in a bar or something, and said, oh, James doesn't know that he's losing his job soon. Maybe he should go to work in cyber. But the most famous one they had, these were for all the jobs that are going because of the pandemic, because the hospitality industry has been destroyed, the tourism has been destroyed, the airlines have been destroyed. All those people are now without work. But one of the most famous ones was a ballet dancer. And they said, Fatima was the name of the dancer. Fatima was shown putting her ballet shoes on. But Fatima doesn't know that she won't have a job soon. Maybe Fatima should work in cyber. And there was a huge reaction from the artistic community, from many performers, so much that they had to withdraw the poster and apologize and say it was a big mistake, because the message was that the arts, the culture are not real jobs, and you have to diversify. You have to go now into cyber, because that's where the future is. So it was interesting because it showed the attitude.
I think we have a request for floor in the audience. Fabio, I think.
Yes.
Please go for it.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to highlight that even for quote unquote real work, we are always having to prove ourselves. Like, you're not granted a regular job, and like expanding the concept of culture, like even to get access to studies, like you want to study more or like learn about something, you have to prove yourself to the university that you're good enough to even go there and study. But yeah, so something that I was going to say that I find very nice about here in Finland, and of course it could be improved, as Mikaela mentioned, is the access to spaces, because at least I was very surprised, like coming from Brazil, because back home, if you're out of the city center, like people have no leisure space. So yeah, the kids play in backyards, like these funk places that like people go to dance. Usually they are just like parking lots that you don't like. Everything is super improvised, and even parks. Like everybody thinks that Brazil is like a jungle, but the only park in São Paulo is right in the middle of the city. There is no subway station nearby. Like if you're poor and you use public transportation, it's going to cost you a lot in time and in money to get there. So yeah, I think that the right for a space, like for the community, like you want to make a spontaneous presentation or like share your work with your local friends, neighbors. I think that this would be like a great way to connect people and to make everyone a small artist somehow, like giving access to art, like making it more popular, I guess.
Thanks, Fabio. I haven't read the all 150 pages of the United Nations World Health Organization's report number 67. Health Evidence Network Synthesis Report. But I think it's something we have been waiting for a long time, and it has already been there for a year.
Yeah.
And as a self-criticism, I have to say that how long time does it need for me to understand that I have to know what it says? I think we as artists who are mixing the poor art with the dirty ideas of the streets and the society with all these political things, I think we should read the 150 pages in order to fight for better future. Because if a world organization, WHO, is saying that yes, art is good for the health and art is good for the well-being, and if we have to apply for money for our wages and for our funding of our organizations, I mean, we have 150 pages arguments, and we have to use them. I propose that we do another webinar or whatever, where we go deeper and dig these ideas and find more collaborators. Let's invite 2 or 3 organizations to debate about how to use the 150 pages. And also in the European left direction, I think we should open the debate on the World Health Organization report on the evidence on how important culture and art is for the well-being. I think we have not touched that because of the poor art idea. And then I think we are in the question of, are we too elitist that we don't take this well-being seriously? There are 7 aims in the UN report. And one of them is that we should have more funding for research. So we don't have any possibilities to give more funding for that, but we can fund it by doing our own debates and actions. And one idea is also there that we should promote public awareness of art and culture benefits for wealth. So actually, this is what we are doing. What do you think, Joseph? Because soon there will be, what was the exact date? The 21st of November, there will be a cultural assembly with the title No Europe Without Culture. Do you think that there is any possibility to open debate on well-being on this issue?
Well, I think there are going to be 3. We have been meeting for some time, and we have chosen 3 main topics. Because we have a period of, I think, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And there has to be a break also, because otherwise when people are on Zoom too long. And I think the three topics have been about, one is about the pandemic and the precarious nature of cultural work. What we were talking about earlier, the fact that many people, don't have secure employment now, and what is happening in the individual countries and how that can be challenged. So that is one of the webinar that I am chairing, a discussion of. The second one is about what is the nature of European culture. Some people have a question about whether there is such a thing as a European culture, and if there is, how has that been changed by Netflix and by American culture and so on and so forth. I know this is a big question in some countries like France, and other countries not so much in the UK for very obvious reasons. So that is another area that they are discussing. And also I think within that, the idea of elite culture against the people's culture. And then the third topic is migration, and about the influence of migrants in culture in Europe, and how culture portrays migration as well. And so they're going to have a panel with, I know there will be an actor from Greece who's been very involved. Greece, of course, is one of the frontline countries involved with migration now, and there will be an actor from Greece speaking. And also, I believe, a migrant artist. I'm not sure who that person is yet. So I think those are the three main areas, but there will be, within those three areas, I'm sure there is room for discussion as well about, you know, as we talked about health and well-being and so on, but maybe as you are saying, it's something as well which the network should look at in the future.
Hmm. Let's do that. Soon we have reached the 1 hour, which is the middle of the 2 hours. Really? And then in the 18 hours in Finland, that's 17 hours in the Central European time zone, then we have an artistic surprise. Here in Helsinki, I can hear that the surprise is practicing in the other room. I don't know if you can hear it over there in the online session. But if anybody wishes to sort of complete this first round, then the floor is yours, meaning we have been debating about the difference of art and activism, spaces, and then if we are really an instrument, and if the art can really be as an instrument for better health and well-being. So I think we have touched very many essential issues, important ones, that your organizations are dealing with and you are working with them all the time. And also as individual artists, would you like to sort of make some putting together or finding something new or saying something totally different? Now we have a short break for that, if you wish.
No, I have too many things now in my head, which I would like to say, but
Say them
I can't
all.
say it in 3 minutes or 1 minute. No. Oh,
Don't
but
worry, we still have time.
yes, I'll leave it to after the music.
I wanted to ask your panelists who work with mental health, when we are talking about culture and well-being, a big issue for the future is work and the nature of work. And there's a big debate now about the 4-day week, and because the digitalization of work, there will be a lot less work, I think, in terms of hours and days and parts of people's lives. So the question is, what do people do in the rest of the time? And this is where I think culture and art is going to be very important. What do you do? Many people, when they're not working, they don't know what to do. They have no direct experience of being creative or dealing with culture. I mean, do you have some proposals around that? Because I think this is going to be a big challenge.
I'm happy you asked. Please take the floor.
How do you say? No, about this basic thing in Taiteen sulattamo is it's open for all.
Yes. Despite of a gender or cultural background or despite of a diagnosis. And it's like low threshold, no fee.
Yeah. So this is the first step in this situation, that people should know that there is a space where to come.
If you allow, I also wish to say something very political, because I think the basic question is that why do we work? Not only as artists, but as anybody. Why does anybody work? I mean, we used to think that work brings prosperity. Today, the work doesn't bring prosperity. You have to have 2 works, and it's very often the situation that with the 2 works, you don't pay the rent and you don't buy the food to the table. So the work doesn't automatically guarantee the basic security. And at this time, there are political forces that are demanding change, and they are demanding basic security for everybody, because we need that, because we lack basic security. And also there are, in Finland, there are all the left, also the parliamentarian left, is proposing change in the working hours. We heard our Prime Minister Sanna Marin said that idea of 6-hour working day is for the future. For Sanna Marin, the future means 10, 20, 30 years. We need it now because people need work, because we need basic security. And there we go to the interesting debate, because if we have less working hours, we have more free time. We have more time for our families. We have more time to educate ourselves, and we have more time for the arts and culture. So I think in the future, in the better society, arts and culture is understood as one of the most important issues, because people want to do something in their life than just sit in their workplaces. So we should understand, besides the 150 pages, we should understand that in the future, art and the culture is so much more needed than today, because we have to have division of work more fairly, and it means more work for us artists. Now I go and see our surprise guest and invite her here. Meanwhile, you can of course continue debating. In short time I will appear again.
It's gone. Go.
She's gone.
Shall we make some space?
Let's
for
make
the
for the
artists?
artist, for the
Yes.
art to make the intervention.
If you stay on the side and we have a short chat, please sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary-Sofia.
Thank you. Jeppe.
What was that?
This was medieval song, yes, from 14th century Scandinavia. It is the oldest secular song that is found written in note. And it was found, I just have to check what I have been writing. Yeah. Yes, it's included in Codex Runicus, which is like transcript of Scandinavian law that time. Yes. And the classic, I would say, classic interpretation, translation for this song in English is like that.
I dreamt a dream about silk and noble fur or fine clothes. But because it was found in this song, in this Codex Runicus, in the context of the Scandinavian law, there have been other interpretations, and one of the interpretations is, I don't remember by heart, one is that I dreamed a dream last night of justice and fair play, and the alternative interpretation is that I dreamed a dream last night of equality and honest measure. So there's something interesting, attracting in this song for me personally, and I'm also attracted by the fact because that it's old song, oldest found within a note in Scandinavia, because I'm a friend of early music. I do that early music as a hobby.
You are Mary Sofia Lakos, and do you consider yourself as activist too? Because we have just been debating an hour about art and activism, and I hear your messages of equality and issues like that. Do you consider yourself as activist too?
In a way, even I'm not a political person. I'm not associated with some political party. I'm not active in that field, but still I feel that I'm activist in my own way.
And you were singing in Swedish?
Yeah, this was like Skåne or Danish. Or Skåne is like southern Swedish dialect.
Perfect. Where, in what situation, what events have you been performing this song before?
Actually, with ensemble, we are about 3, that changes, alternates according to the situation, with 3 or 5 girls, or sometimes 2 that we are performing early music. But I like to perform these songs in a new context also. I like to bring more kind of folk kind of touch. Because you know me, and I'm dealing more with folk music and traditional music. This is like something extra. Not extra, but something special among my musical activities. And I have been experiencing this kind of attitude often, that early music is associated with kind of elitistic culture, but it doesn't have to be like this. I like to bring it more like folk, how can I say, I like to find these things that are more easily approachable by people, different kind of people and nations.
I'm so happy you could perform with us. I'm a big fan of your art, and I want to end to sort of finalize our short interview here in the middle of the webinar. I would like to ask if you have been okay with this corona chaos and everything, and how has it affected your artistic life, the COVID-19?
Yes, and they mentioned I'm like freelance musician and freelance interpreter of Persian and Greek languages, and my life is a kind of puzzle, and music is also lifestyle, but it's in a way source of income. So many of the performances that were arranged, booked for last spring, were cancelled because of this COVID thing. So in a way, I experienced frustration. But I think there are many other people who experience that even more than me, because I have that other work, which is my main work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have been debating the idea of being an instrument for an organization's plan and work, and do you think that you have been an instrument for people's health and well-being when you sing these ancient songs? Does it bring any healthy vibes when you perform? Are you a healer?
Well, this sounds interesting. I mean, I would like to be, in a way, healer, this would be the ideal thing. But it's difficult to say when it functions, when it works, and when it doesn't work. But this would be my target. It's my dream.
Wow.
I mean, healer. I mean, to bring some refreshment for people, some comfort, some new thoughts.
Guess what, Mary-Sofia? The United Nations have just published 150 pages that is fighting with us for the same reason.
Oh.
Thank you for your performance and this short interview.
I have one song.
Great. One more, please.
This song I'm performing first time in my life. I mean, I have been playing, accompanying this when my friends have been singing. And I will tell about this song a little bit. The song is from 13th century England, and the translation from this old English, I don't know how to call it, but in modern English is the following. Merry is while summer lasts, with bird song, but now, close by the wind's blast, and the weather is powerful, oh, whoa, I exclaim, this night is so long. And I also am done much wrong, sorrow and mourn, and go without food or alternatively starve. And I'm going to perform this song now. First time, this is the Rebek medieval bow instrument. I would say not the most ideal for accompanying, but I try. This is a little bit strange, this note keeper. I just
Do you need help?
I don't know actually. Yeah. I should have been thinking this before, but because I just got the idea. It happened that last night I had forgotten my keys, and my husband, it was in work travel, and I had to be from 1 o'clock until 4:30 outside. It was horrible, but it somehow brings for this song a concrete something. Okay, I try like this. Tuning, short tuning. Can you have some small talk?
Small talk.
A joke, maybe.
Has someone else? I mean, has someone else experienced to be outside in the night and the keys are forgotten home? No. Yeah, but when one's experienced in this or more times, one understands how difficult it is to be homeless in Finland or other countries, Nordic or corresponding.
I think being outside in Finland at this time must be very cold.
Yeah.
Dark. And dark.
Sorry for tuning that. It's like accidentally I somehow hit this Rebecca. It's very sensitive. Miri i svensk somaren lastvärt fågelens sång. Miri i svensk somaren lastvärt fågelens sång. Och nådes vindes glas. Ej what is nicht is long. Annihlit väl Michael Wrong. Sorry and war and fast. Some more early music.
Wow, that was Mary Sofia Lakos. And now we start the last session of our art, culture, and well-being webinar. And I would say it's the action part.
More action.
So
More action.
now I wish to show, I hope that you bring all the action figures of your artist and organizational points to this debate. And I would like to hear what you and your organizations are doing at the moment. Who wishes to start?
Do I start? Because we have our premiere first night on the 9th of December in Taiteen Sulattamo. It's in this theater. And its name is, it's also written by mental health. What?
Mental
Sorry.
health recoverers.
Recovers. Sorry, my English. So we have done it in workshops. First, writing things that are interests everybody, and after that we have gone to the history of being mad, fool, that kind of things. And after that we have now our first night. And the name of the production is Rajoitettu vapaakävely. And it has two meanings, these words, because now we have a COVID. So it's restricted walking. This is restricted free walking, those words. But restricted, I don't know what's in psychiatry, this term is in English. It means that there are places, hospitals, mental hospitals, and they have promised to walk only on the aidattu alue.
District area.
District area. So it's called restricted free walking, but it's something else, that term. But now in COVID, this means another. So this is coming soon. Come to see it.
Wow, we will. With this
First action now.
First action. And beside of that,
Step.
beside of that, we also every weekday in space of Taiteen Sulattamo, we have this free art workshop during the daytime, and everybody is free to come, no matter what gender you are or your cultural background. Everybody is welcome, and it's totally free. You don't even have to kind of like apply for it. You just come in and come to do art with us, and they are directed by our own peer support person, kind of like this expert of experience who directs these workshops. We have creative writing, we have drama workshop, and then different kind of like artistic work where you can paint, you can draw, whatever. It depends on the day, or it changes every time. And also, actually, we also now starting to have some kind of, because these workshops are on the daytime, but in the future we want to provide more also evening activities. As we were talking about, maybe people who go to work, they could come at the evening time to join our free artistical activities. So please welcome Joseph if you come to Finland. You are heartily really welcome to our art workshops. And everybody there in the webinar, of course, here in Malmi. There, sorry, I was. Hi, sorry. I'm really.
What's the direction?
What's the direction? I don't know. Please welcome to.
This is great to invite people, but what has been the reaction of the neighborhood and people? Are you getting always new faces, and what is usual? Is there a usual reaction?
You mean a reaction from the neighbors or reaction?
Yeah, both. I mean, if someone just pops in,
everybody can like pop in, and of course we have this kind of a. There's a social worker, for example, in some institution. They can tell for their client, hey, here you can find interesting or therapeutical even workshops. Go to Taiteen Sulattama, and they can provide us, take them to our places. That's why we try to kind of reconnect with different organizations and spread our word. Everybody is welcome. Come here to do art with us.
interesting.
And then the bigger political system, we have this, we make initiative to make influence to the structures and cooperation. And we are one of those who has established kulttuurihyvinvointipooli.
Like cultural welfare pool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cultural welfare pool.
Yeah, it's an open stage for professional working in the field of cultural well-being and political decision makers. And the first webinar we have on the 24th of this month, November.
Okay.
Yes. So we want to make influence in deeper to the structures and deeper to the political disease.
How easy is it?
What?
How easy is it?
It's not easy. But
But
we
you
have done work.
Yes.
Lobbying
In the
Yes.
government for the politics to ministries.
And
So it's possible.
it's possible, yes.
And actually, we have this discussion evening, this social innovation evening.
Yes, where you were.
Where you were.
Oh, I'm everywhere.
Remember that? Hopefully you remember. There we are.
That was it.
It was that.
I remember I made a list of the billions where we get
Yeah.
funding.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
And by the way, Merikukka, that was where I did a performance where I put the air fighters' budget to the garbage bin and gave the money for this organization.
Yeah, all right. That's really nice. I should go there.
I remember when we were writing with Joseph the article for this webinar, and we were talking about the art as a political tool for making the changing the world. And Joseph, you mentioned the poems as a political force. Can poems be political?
Well, as I said in my interview I did with you, a very famous example of that was a very old poem, well, early 19th century poem called The Mask of Anarchy by Shelley, one of the great romantic poets. And that there are lines in that, which it's a very revolutionary poem. In fact, when it was first written, I think it was banned, censored. And there are lines in that that say, rise like lions from your slumber You are many, they are few. And Jeremy Corbyn began to use this as his slogan in the last few years when he became the radical leader of the Labour Party. And so he would go to these huge rallies with thousands of young people, and often at the end of his speech he would quote this poem, and this poem had tremendous resonance because although it's written, you know, over 200 years ago, it still has that power, that strength to carry that message. So it's interesting. I think poetry is still very powerful.
Joseph, I know that you have also written interesting pieces.
I have.
And for street actions, for the health workers strike, was it a strike? You wrote a poem?
Well, no, it wasn't a strike. It was, and in fact, I have a video of the poem, of me performing the poem. So you're going to have a video performance.
Can we see it online? Is it possible?
So what happened here in England was that when the COVID first started, it was clear that the health service would be under huge stress. So there was a big call for the population to support the health workers. And in many countries in Europe, that manifested itself in different ways. So in Italy, they sang from the balconies, and in France, they had other things. And here, every Thursday night, the people came outside the houses or out their windows, and they clapped for about 5 or 10 minutes for the health workers. And at the end of the first lockdown, so the first lockdown was quite long, and at the end of the first lockdown, I wrote this poem, and I used the image of the clapping, and it's very onomatopoeic, the poem. I used the image of the poem, but they kept using, the government kept using the terminology of war against the virus and so on. So I actually drew on some images from very famous English poems about war. One of them is by a poet called Siegfried Sassoon. He was very famous in the First World War. He was an officer on the Western Front, and he wrote very, very critical poems about the war, which have been often used by the peace movement since. And so I put some of those influences in the poem, but as you will see from the poem, because I gave it to an online poetry reading, where many poets were putting their work online because they couldn't do live readings. It's a very dark poem because it predicts how the government is going to deal with the society and with the health workers once the lockdown is finished. And of course, that's exactly what happened, because they refused to give them any pay increase. They refused to do anything for them. So I'm making the point in the poem that this clapping, this big national gesture, is essentially an empty gesture. It's without any significant support or any real change.
Okay.
So you would like me to show it now?
Yes, of course. Let's see if that is technically possible.
Can you share your screen from there? I don't know if it's allowed.
I can share.
Try it. And then you just should put it on.
No, I don't think you can see it.
Too bad. It's not.
Well, I can read it if you like.
Please, please. For another webinar, we do much more practice so we can have it with no problems in the future. But sorry, let's hear it live from the poet himself.
Okay, so just a moment.
Great.
Computers are always slow.
Yeah, Finns, we can be quiet for a long time.
Totally normal.
But we are also very good icebreakers.
Yes, what shall we do now?
Yeah, some action. More action.
More action, yes.
Yeah, sorry, we are ready.
Maybe you should continue until I can get it. Get it up.
Okay, any moment you just say.
Oh no, it's here. It's here now.
Go for it.
Clap, 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 clap. The TV shows the multitudes each Thursday night at 8. Nurses outside hospitals. Bin lids beaten outside terraced houses. Cheering paramedics on Westminster Bridge. And grimacing politicians applauding furiously for the heroes. Clap, 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 clap. For the nurses and the care workers struggling to serve, their Eton ancestors ordered the hopeless Light Brigade to charge into the Valley of Death. Theirs not to reason why, theirs but to ask for PPE to protect their lives and those of others. Clap, 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 clap. For the daily press conferences worthy of Ceausescu, where bored cabinet ministers read empty scripts and health experts try to hide the puppet strings attached to their backs, where journos are allowed but one question, and that had better not be tough, or Laura Kuenssberg will be asked instead. 45 minutes till they're slightly grilled, but not enough to burn. Clap, 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 clap. For the families without a loved one, for the empty rooms in care homes, not forgetting the Cheltenham crowds told to have a good time by the leering Boris. He's a cheery old chap, said Tommy to Fred, but he did for them both in the end. And when the virus returns, and the shopping and the partying must end to fill the coffers of the super rich and merely rich, what will we all do then? We will carry on clapping into the night, more silent than the graves.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Any comments, or we share something?
That was very powerful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I remember when the Finnish health workers were fighting against the coronavirus, and everybody was in lockdown, and at the same time the health workers were in how do you call it when they negotiate for the next deal for their working period. So they were demanding better salaries. And it was a difficult demand. They wanted to finally get on the same level, the equal level with Finnish men working, because now they are not in the equal level, and they couldn't manage that. But what they could do is they got blue lights on one of the most famous buildings in Finland, the Finlandia Hall, and it was like clapping on the faces of the nurses. I think it's therefore I wish to ask you can you change the world with art?
Well, of course, that's the only, I mean, that's the only thing that can change the world is art for the better, I think. And I've been thinking through this discussion that actually art, it isn't it doesn't work because it's a lifestyle. It's 24/7. It's all the time. You can separate it. Well, I can't separate. I don't understand. I mean, I couldn't work like. Of course, I work many hours with my music, but it's still there. I can't leave it home, or I can't leave it to the place where I work. It's always here, and that's why you can't separate it. It's here, and it will change the world. It's the only way.
And I totally believe that through art, because I believe, and we in Taiteellisuottelu believe that each individual in this world have a lot of potential and strength inside them. And we feel that with art methods, we can draw that potential out for the greater good. And that's how the world changes for better, when one individual changes and understands his or her potential, and the method is art.
Yes, changes comes from inside.
Change comes from inside, but our method is the tool, is the art.
Yes, of course. We have to show the people that
yes.
hey, I think that's why people are getting more and more mentally sick, because we've been like in Finland, we've been cutting from the schooling, we've been cutting arts and sports, and they did do this very expensive. What is it? They looked at it. What's that word now? I can't remember the word. Tutkimus.
Investigation.
Yeah, investigation by the government, that how it affects people, and of course it, like the WHO did. So and the results were, yes, it's affecting people. Like, yeah, good work. So, but nothing happened. It didn't change anything. They didn't give more money to arts and sports in school.
But
and now you can see it. What's happening? What's happening with the youth?
Isn't Sanna Marin government giving better budgets for the culture and the arts? Is it?
I haven't heard. Well, they have been cutting so much that is it like when you so is it like if you give like you cut 5 million and then you give 1 million? So it's, oh yes, we got 1 million. That's so much. It's like that's not it. It's not a. It's just like putting plaster on a stuff.
There was a promise before the last elections. All the big parties promised to lift the cultural budget to 1% of the total budget, and it's not complete. It's not yet there.
No, it's not.
But they were elected because of that idea. So we have to be very careful and see that they are saying what they promised us.
I think arts, it's art which give us tools to handle our emotions. Because this world is now so economical based. Everything is economical. We must always think what everything costs and something like that. And we forget these people, all us, everybody. We have feelings, we have emotions. And because of those leikkaukset, cuts. It's a short word. Because of those cuts, we forget how to handle these kind of things. And when you are smaller and smaller, and you have nothing in sports, you have no sports, no arts in schools, which are the tools of handling motions. So
yes, you can see the results now. Yeah. They started cutting in the 90s.
Should we ask the United Nations to show the 150 pages to the current government in Finland, because they haven't understood the meaning of the arts and culture, but they seem to have understood the meaning of new air fighters, which are very much more expensive than what we are asking for. But there is a Fabio wanting to ask the floor, so maybe Fabio and then Joseph, please.
Yeah, I will.
No. Nyt se lähti uudestaan.
Oh, thanks. I was just going to mention about the question, can art change the world? And yeah, I think it totally can, but we also have to ask the opposite, like, can the world change art? And this is very important to me because like the modernist movement in the 20s, it was a complete rupture between like the previous art and what came next. And it also, and it's not a coincidence that it happened during the greatest revolution in the history of man. So I feel that at the same time that art intervenes in the world, we also need to let the world, like those great mobilizations in the US for the death of George Floyd and all the social movements, like these also has to intervene back into art, and this cycle makes everything move forward. I say that yeah, I'll just end here because I lost my turn.
Don't end, never end. Just take again floor whenever. Joseph.
Okay.
Yes, so I want to address the same question, but from the other way around, and that is to show why art frightens autocratic regimes. So, for example, the first thing you find in an autocratic regime is a banning and censorship of cinema, of literature, of theater, and so on. And there are many examples around the world. So clearly, art has the power to shake and to question regimes and to make their people unsettled. And now, I grew up in a very traditional Catholic Ireland, very reactionary at that time. And it is incredible now to look back and see that until the 1960s, the Catholic Church had the power to ban literature in my country. So the government will actually ask the church. So James Joyce, for example, was illegal. It was not possible to read James Joyce in Ireland until the 1960s because his ideas about sexuality and his very clear descriptions in Ulysses and so on were considered shocking and not the sort of material that a good Catholic population should be reading. So, I mean, when people see that now, they cannot believe it. But the point, you look at Iran or look at certain other states, look at the way that their artists maybe have to go into exile, or as they called it in Germany under the Nazis, inner exile. So clearly, art is seen as threatening to these forces, seen as something that is capable of destabilizing the regime.
For any change, I feel that we need some more better connection to people and actions and movements. And I would like to ask you if we need an international connection. Where do we need European connection or international action? Isn't it enough that we just talk here in the north, in the darkness?
Well, it's a round world, so, and it has been, the culture's been, arts and culture's been moving around through history, human history. So I think this is great. We can talk like this. I mean, we don't even have to move. We can talk to the other side of the world or to England, and I think it's great.
What do you think, Joseph? Can the European left change the world?
Well, one of my concerns is, and one of the reasons why we are trying to get many cultural activists to take part in the Cultural Assembly, which is this day next week, is because traditionally the people who go to the events tend to be people who are only involved in politics. Now we want to broaden that out so that there is a clear juncture a clear interaction between politics and culture, because many of the people working in the cultural field are actually doing political things, and we want also political thinkers and political activists to be influenced by cultural figures and cultural ideas. So I think that, you know, that intersectionality, if you like, is very important, because as I said earlier, you know, if you look at most trade unions, I'm an active trade unionist, I try and get cultural things into my trade union, try and get them to hold events, sponsor events, and so on. It's the same with politics. We need more points of interaction, and I think the European Forum being held by the European left is one of those. And I would hope that if that is a very good and positive experience, that the cultural network of the European left will continue on with, you know, some further initiatives. But I think events like this are really helpful, and you know, bringing us together and, you know, sharing our ideas and our cultural work as well. And I think I would like to see more online performances by people from the European left and cultural groups who are connected with it and so on. I mean, you're doing that job magnificently in Finland, but I cannot say that people are always doing that effectively in other countries. And there are some countries where I think, you know, they have very large. I mean, I'll give you being somewhat controversial here. The German Die Linke is one of the largest political parties in the European left, but they haven't got a single representative on the cultural network. Why is that the case? That's very strange.
Because of the history, one of the most active members was from Die Linke for many years. Please, if any ideas, just continue. If not, I just continue asking Joseph, because you mentioned that the idea of marginalized communities and digital performances. You said that we were good in something. I don't know what you mean. Please tell more about it. Please open the debate of the digital performance and marginalized communities. This interests us all, I think.
Well, a number of people on your panel there have involvement with mental health groups and organizations and so on, and I work for a disability organization actually in London.
You do?
And what has been interesting during this period of the pandemic is that obviously many physical meetings have ended, and a lot more people have gone on to online meetings, and there has been a significant increase in disabled people, for example, attending those events who would not have gone before to the physical meetings, sometimes for a variety of reasons, sometimes because they're autistic and they actually find physical meetings intimidating, or they find the whole experience, you know, of getting organized for meetings and so on with the travel off-putting, and sometimes for physical disabilities and so on and so forth. So some disabled people have described this period as the great experiment. And it is interesting to see that in terms of involvement, it has opened up a lot more involvement. I mean, people have talked a lot about the change in the nature of work and, you know, remote working and so on, but I think the other aspect of that is how we can connect much more easily internationally. So for many marginalized groups, like, for example, disabled people, I think this is a new opportunity, and it's something that I think I talked as well about some of the online performances I've watched. Certainly during the first period of the pandemic, a lot of theatres and so on made their work available. Now, there was a very interesting project in Ireland where the Abbey Theatre, the National Theatre, took, I think, about 40 performers, all solo performers, and each of them did a small theatrical piece, and they ran it for 3 nights. That was very, very interesting, very diverse, and it allowed a lot more performers to take part than normally you would see in so it expanded it, it allowed more people to be involved. I think these are the sort of things that potentially, could open up for us.
Okay, comments?
Actually, I think we have had some same kind of experience in Taiteen Sulattamo because of this COVID situation in the spring. Because of that, we have had to develop different kind of hybrid models, how people can come into our art workshops. And we have noticed that we have get new people coming in because we have had this internet connected, sorry, I'm so tired, my English is bad now, because our workshops are also on the internet. So there's some positive also coming from this COVID situation. And actually we are all the time trying to figure new ways how to utilize internet's possibilities and how to get our artistical actions to website.
I think this is something that we have to understand, that from now on, if not all the events, but most of the events should be also possible to join through Zoom or Skype or whatever. I mean, why should we not able people to join the events with other methods? Think about Finland. How long country are we? 1,200 kilometers. We have members in the high north, in the ice sea area. To travel from there, it takes a day. Just to dramatize it a bit. This is the drama section. It takes a day to come to Helsinki, but you could just connect yourself there and participate in every action. But before we didn't do that. We were just paying tickets to travel and sit days in trains. So I think maybe we are more flexible now. Yes. But dear friends, in Helsinki, what should the city of Helsinki do to make arts more accessible? What should the city of Helsinki make that the art and the culture reaches easier people? Because that is one of the points Joseph wishes also to talk about, how to make the art and the culture more accessible.
Well, I think cities should use places like, example, Taiteen Sulattamo. They should contact us and help us to provide all this access to everybody. And of course, other places too, not just us. But we are ready to help city, of course, if city would help us.
Perfect. Other ideas?
Well, I think that the venues are very important. These, I mean, what is Helsinki doing now is destroying these places for gigs, for places for art, and building hotels. I don't know how many hotels we need in Helsinki. And why are they building it now? Because we're not going back to this kind of tourism that the hotels are going to be full. So I don't understand. But we need places. I think that's very important. And it's very good. Well, when we have places, then people can come there, and also that we can have these Zoom things and people can watch from the computer. But,
Joseph, what are you demanding London to do better?
Yeah. Where do I begin? Well, I mean, what that person just said about spaces, very important. But I think also there's the question, if we go back to digital performance, there's digital exclusion. There's still many people who are not on the internet or can't access online performances. And I was speaking to someone recently who worked for a charity, and she told me that 1/3 of their members could no longer take part in their activities because they couldn't access, they didn't have a computer or they didn't have internet. So one of the election points that Jeremy Corbyn had in the last general election last year was free broadband for everybody. So I think that, you know, that would be an essential point. And then, of course, subsidizing, you know, what we talked about earlier, the smaller, more radical arts groups, and the price of accessing culture is so expensive for so many people, and especially after this experience, when there will be so many people with no work, there has to be a further subsidy, you know, for culture, so that to reduce prices and to have more venues.
Thanks. Guess what? We are facing time limits. So please, I would say a minute of something of the goodbye words. I have also made some closing here.
Is it goodbye?
No, this is not goodbye. This is to start. I think.
Beginning.
So please, beginning words. Beginning words. Fair enough.
Let's everybody read this
Yes.
150
Yes,
pages.
Exactly.
And after that, we are much wiser to justify our
Yes.
work.
Exactly.
Great. Tim,
This is my,
thank you.
I promise to read it.
I'm not going to read it.
Okay.
I'm going to read it way too long for me, but yeah, I think we need to continue talking about art and its importance in mental health.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm going to read the document. I promise it here and now, and then I'm really interested about this international connection and like together we are more. It would be really interesting that Taiteen Sulattamo could have some kind of international co-worker or just change the ideas if we can share something for somebody and vice versa. That would be really interesting.
Well, I will try to read this. Yes, I will promise I'll read it, because I think that everybody, there are people who read this kind of stuff and then they know about it. I've known this all my life, since I was born, that art is for everybody. We're going to be very healthy if we just do art. So yeah.
Great. We have also Mary-Sofia. How would you put this together if you wish, come into the picture?
Difficult to say. Something like this comes to my mind, that let's just bravely go forward with heart.
Absolutely. Is London hearing the last
Famous words.
beginning words?
Yes, and I have to say there are two friends of mine from London, both being here, taking part in the meeting as well, and I think they have found it interesting, I hope.
Great. I think we can put this together saying that the World Health Organization has data and facta, numbers that we all wish to study. And I think we can agree that artist work needs to be recognized as work.
Yes.
And salary is a perfect symbol for recognition.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yes.
And then I would like to add that the culture is not bought, it is done. And that's why I think we should join Meri Kukkas, Mikaela's, Joseph, Mary Sophia's, Tim's, and Helena's ideas and invitations in these actions. Take them seriously. And to end this cultural countercurrent webinar, I want to say 7 times thank you. Thank you to the Democratic Civic Association. Thank you to the European left. Thank you to the Communist Party of Finland, the Tiedonantaja newspaper. Thank you to all the speakers and artists. And thank you all the participants in the social media. We, the artists, do not only express our feelings and explain the world, but we also want to change it.
And can I just say, before you go, can we encourage everybody to come to the Cultural Assembly next week?
We do, and we will be there.
Right.
Stay safe.
You too. Nice to see you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.